Hello, my name is Rachel Carlin. I am a preschool teacher at the schoolhouse here in Masaki. I'm also the parent of a daughter in CM2. I am very interested in literacy and how children learn to read. As adults, we all know how to read, but none of us can exactly remember how it happened. Maybe you can remember when you learned to read, whether it was in preschool or in primary school, but how the technicality of reading happens is quite specific. Firstly, you learn to identify the sounds that make up the words. Then you learn the formation of how these sounds move together in a specific shape to form the words. Then the children learn how to blend the different sounds and recognize these blends in words. After that, you learn to recognize these formations in the word. And finally, you learn the tricky sounds and the tricky words. And once you've learned this all together, you put it together and you're able to start reading. First, you have an emerging reader. This is generally a child in preschool who's starting to show interest in reading. They're starting to pick up books, look at the stories. They understand that the symbols on the paper may have meaning. They understand that the book's pages turn from left to right, and they use a picture to understand what the story is about. Emergent readers require other people, the adults in their life generally, to read the story to them. This is when children start to understand the pleasure of books and the pleasure of stories. Next, you get the novice reader. A novice reader has some skills, some phonics skills, which are able to apply to their reading. They're able to blend sounds together, they're able to recognize high-frequency words, and they're able to try and decode the story by themselves. Next, we have the decoding reader. This is a child who puts all the skills they've learned together. They can recognize the patterns of words, they're able to start reading with some fluency, and they're able to understand and have meaning to what they're reading and retell the story later. The next stage is a fluent reader. A fluent reader is able to put in accents, is able to put in some feeling and emotion into their reading. They're able to predict what comes next, and they get a lot of enjoyment out of the reading. The final stage of a reader is an expert reader. A lot of experts believe that none of us are expert readers because as adults we are still learning to decode new words and understand new meanings. Firstly, you can model reading. Your children imitate what they see happening. If your child sees you reading and taking pleasure from reading, they're going to be intrigued and interested in picking up a book or a magazine and reading for themselves. The next thing you can do is to read aloud to your child. Even once your child has started to decode words and read for themselves, it is important to continue reading to them. This way they get the love of the story and also they hear the correct pronunciation of words. Do not stop reading aloud to your child just because they're able to read to themselves. Ensure that the text you're reading to your child are age appropriate. Do not be pitching the text too low for your child to read just because they do not have the skills to decode more difficult words. A child will only be interested in reading something that they are interested in, so ensure that you keep the text relevant. Reading and writing go hand in hand, so encourage as much writing as possible. Encourage your child to help write up a grocery list, write out a recipe, write cards to families and friends that live far away, to write birthday cards to their friends. Show your child that you enjoy writing by leaving notes, maybe in their lunchbox or around the house, that they are required to read. Encourage invented spelling. If your child does not spell a word correctly, but the spelling makes sense to them, do not always correct the spelling. Allow them to get the pleasure of writing without always being criticized. Have print material readily available in your home. This means that your child see newspapers, magazines, pamphlets, things like that, that they're able to pick up and read. We are lucky to be living in an age of many apps. A great one to use is Audible. These are audiobooks which your child is able to listen to, read by professional storytellers, and get the love and enjoyment of the story. Utilize the Audible app alongside the written print, so your child is able to associate the correct spelling with the correct pronunciation of words. This is especially handy if your child is reading in a language that is not your mother tongue and you are unsure that your pronunciation will be completely correct. Another great thing to do is to turn down the sound on Netflix on their favorite show and just put the subtitles up. If you do this on a show that they know and they're able to predict what's coming, it will help them gain the fluency in the reading. Another great thing that you can do together as a family is to play board games that encourage reading. Monopoly has a lot of reading in small, sharp bursts. This will encourage your children to try and decode some simple words while having fun. And finally, utilize the amazing library that the school has. Speak to the librarian, get out some books, and enjoy the pleasure of reading. Thank you.